Hello everyone, this is Eric from BuzzSumo Customer Success. In this session, we're going to take a tour through BuzzSumo and learn the many different ways you can use our features to create better content. Let's get started. BuzzSumo is a content discovery platform that helps us identify and track the most engaging content across the web for a given period of time. We can use BuzzSumo's tools to help us create better content through research, amplification, and monitoring. The platform is broken down into 4 major categories, each with a set of features to help us conduct these efforts. But before we get into these specific features, I want to make sure that everyone understands where to go for help when you're working in BuzzSumo. In the bottom right corner of the screen, you'll notice a blue Need Help button. Clicking on this will open up the knowledge base in the sidebar. This is a great resource for finding answers to common questions, guides for working on specific tasks, or tours of individual features. The database is entirely searchable. Start typing a term in the top bar, and we'll recommend articles to you. If you can't find an answer to your question, click on the Contact Us form at the top. This will open up a chat window with our support team, and we'll work with you to answer your question. The 4 categories BuzzSumo's features fall into are content research, projects, influencers, and monitoring alerts. We'll start in content research in the Most Shared tool. Most Shared is best thought of as a brainstorm feature. It allows us to search for any topic or domain to see which articles have driven the most amount of engagement over a period of time. We can then sort the articles by specific channels, filter our results by any number of filters, and see who's sharing and linking back to that content. When you type a term in the search bar, BuzzSumo will return those articles to you that match to that term in the title or topic of the articles. It's a bit like Google in terms of relevance for search. We want to return articles to you that closely match the term you've given us, not that the keyword is somewhere buried in the body of the text. By default, we are sorting by the total engagements that these articles have driven, but we can sort by any individual channel that we monitor in BuzzSumo. So if we wanted to see what articles had driven the most engagement on Reddit for the topic of content marketing, we could click on that column and sort by Reddit. In the left-hand sidebar, we have a series of filters that will allow us to further refine our search. For example, if we only wanted to see articles that had been published on this topic within the past day, we could choose to filter by the past 24 hours. Or, if we wanted to see how the content landscape had really changed, we could look back through the past 5 years. We also have filters to search for specific content types, languages, articles published at specific top-level country domains, word counts, or the ability to include or exclude certain domains from our results. I highly recommend that you get comfortable with the various filters in the sidebar. For example, if you know that you are working with a client who operates in the B2B space, you might consider looking at content specifically published to the most popular B2B websites. We want to get comfortable with how to structure searches within BuzzSumo. Clicking on the link beneath the search bar will open a list of our advanced search operators. As we mentioned, Most Shared looks at the title and topic of articles for the term that you've put in the search field, but we can also refine that search by including operators such as minus signs to eliminate terms, an OR operator to look for multiple terms at the same time, quotes to look for exact match phrases in the title only, or, as we mentioned at the top, looking across specific websites. You can see there's some additional ones here towards the bottom. I'd encourage you to explore them and test them out with your topics. BuzzSumo also allows you to save your searches as you move through different features. Saving searches help us build long-term efficiency in the platform by creating digital records of the research we've already conducted. BuzzSumo will remember all of the filters we've put in place so that the next time we log in, this search will already be here ready and waiting for us to access again. To save a search, click the button and give your search a name. I would suggest giving it a name that allows you to remember what filters you might have put in place, especially if it's a highly targeted search. In this instance, I'm looking for articles about content marketing over the past 5 years. But that's my only filter, so just referencing the past 5 years might be enough. Once my search has been saved, it will show up here in the sidebar beneath the filters in an alphabetized list. When it comes to naming your searches, do what makes the most sense for your team. That might mean naming your searches with the names of your clients, date filters, or specific team members that are working on a particular project. When you're ready, you can then export your results directly to CSV or Excel for further analysis. Next to each article, you see these 4 links: Save, Backlinks, Sharers, and Share. Let's take just a moment to review what each of these links does. The Save icon allows you to flag and bookmark any particular piece of content that you want to review later. Hovering over it will open up a projects window with a list of existing projects that you've already created. If you haven't created a project yet, you'll see a button down here at the bottom to create one. Once you've created a project and added this article to it, it will show up back in the Projects tab, which we'll talk about in a few moments. Below the Save feature is View Backlinks. Clicking on this link will open up a page showing you the most shared backlinks that are pointing directly to this article. BuzzSumo has 2 sources of link information in the tool. The top line numbers here come from our partnership with Majestic, one of the largest link databases in the world. But we also crawl our own backlinks through our monitoring alerts. We can then display for you those links that are driving the most social engagement so that you can begin to prioritize which links to focus on and which links should just be thought of as part of your broader portfolio. For example, this top link that's pointing back to this entrepreneur.com article was by itself shared almost 700 times. If I were the author of this entrepreneur article, I would want to know the value that this link is providing me. View Sharers allows us to see a selection of those Twitter users who shared this article to Twitter. We will then sort the results for you based on the level of retweets that each sharer drives. This is another way for you to prioritize potential influencers who are already engaging with your content. Lastly is the Share button. Relatively self-explanatory. Clicking on this will open up a list of the social channels that we allow you to immediately share this piece of content to. You can also auto-schedule these posts directly to a social scheduler like Buffer, Hootsuite, or add the content to Pocket. Let's move ahead into some of the other research tools. Content analysis helps us to get actionable insights about content for a topic or domain that we've been looking at in most shared. The main difference is that in most shared, we're really looking at the article level, whereas a content analysis reports pulls all of those articles together and generates some insights that help frame out our content marketing strategy. Let's go ahead and run a report on content marketing for the past 5 years and go through the charts one by one. Here you can see that we were able to analyze over 300,000 articles for this topic over this time period. On average, those articles drive about 92 engagements. If you're working with a client who's wanting to produce content on this topic and isn't meeting this threshold, now we have a benchmark to shoot for. The very first chart is an engagement chart. This lets us know what the level of competition is we're up against when competing for shares. The blue lines represent the total volume of content being published on this topic on a monthly basis, whereas the line graph represents the total number of engagements these articles are driving over that same period of time. We can click into any point on this chart and see what was published in that window. This could be helpful for understanding any seasonality in your topic area, any particular spikes that correlate with highly engaging articles, or any downtrends that you might want to avoid. You can sort this chart by individual social networks to see if the engagement is trending up on one versus the other. You could also sort by the average number of engagements to smooth out any big fluctuations in the data. The average engagements by network chart helps us identify which is the channel that's driving most of the engagement for articles about this topic. In this instance, Twitter seems to be the dominant channel. So if our client was publishing content on this topic and didn't have Twitter as part of their promotional strategy, this would be a recommendation we would make to make sure that they improve. The average engagements by content type help us identify which title formats seem to work best to drive engagement with an audience. Similar to the engagement chart above, we can also click into any one of these graphs to see a sample of the articles within that category. We can turn on and off certain channels, again depending on what the strategy is for promotion employed by our client. We offer 6 major categories of content types: infographics, videos, what, why, and how-to posts, and list-based posts. How-to, why, and what posts would all feature those terms in the title of the article. To give you an example, by clicking into what posts, we can see that each of the titles feature that term somewhere in the header. What kind of content generates the most links for business owners? What SEO used to be versus what SEO is now. We can also see which day of the week is best to publish content to drive engagements. For this topic, it seems that most of the engagement happens in the early part of the work week and tails off as we move towards the weekend. Again, if your client is posting content on a day later in the week, they are probably missing out on some engagement that's waiting for them on Mondays and Tuesdays. We can also determine which content lengths seem to resonate with an audience. In this example, long-form content seems to work best, while short-form content doesn't tend to get a lot of traction. Lastly, we can get a picture of the websites that are driving the most amount of engagement for this topic. When you're working with clients, clients will often have a very clear understanding of who their competitors are in terms of products and services. But their content competition might not always be the same. This chart can help us identify the content leaders in their topic space. For example, here at BuzzSumo, we don't really compete with Content Marketing Institute. If anything, we might consider them a content partner. But if we want to understand how to develop content that drives engagement and resonates, we're better off looking at their website to determine what works best. Each of these graphs can be quickly exported to PNG file, JPEG, PDF, vector, or even the data downloaded as a CSV file. Or if you want the entire report, click the Export button at the top under the Options tab. While most shared and content analysis focus on web content, the Facebook Analyzer helps you to discover the most engaging posts for any topic or from any public Facebook page. The functionality is quite the same. Enter your term into the search box and click Analyze. The one key difference here is that we are searching the entire body of Facebook posts. So if you're looking for multiple terms at the same time, like content marketing or big data or artificial intelligence, 2-word phrases or more, I would recommend using quotes to find exact match phrases to clean up some of your results. By default, as in most shared, we will display the posts that have generated the most total interactions. Interactions are a sum of likes, comments, and shares of the post. But you can sort by any individual metric as well. In the left-hand sidebar, you have some similar filters that you have in most shared. Here we're looking at the past 2 years worth of data, but you could search the past 24 hours as well. You could also filter your posts by language, Facebook post type, or even look at live videos only. Here, we've pulled the analysis feature into the same screen. To generate your report on your results, just tab between Results and Analysis, and we'll run a report on posts for your topic. You can see that the graphs look somewhat similar to the content analysis reports. We'll calculate the total number of posts, the average engagement, a trend tracker, the average engagements per post type and length, as well as the day and time to drive optimal engagement. Quick tip, the time chart is always displayed in UTC. If you want to convert it to your local time, just click and we'll convert it automatically. As in most shared and content analysis, you can both save your searches or export your results for further analysis. To search for a page, toggle from Searched by Keyword to Search by Page and enter the Facebook page here. Moving on through our analysis tools, the Question Analyzer tackles an entirely different set of content sources. We can research actual questions being asked by our audience across thousands of forums related to any topic or brand. We can use this information to develop a more strategic long-tail keyword approach to our topical categories. We could also use this information to build our authority as subject matter experts on the forum sites themselves. The question analyzer can be used in 3 ways: search by keyword, by particular domain, or by subreddit. The filters in the left-hand sidebar, again, are relatively similar. You can filter by date, type of forum, top-level domain, or even include or exclude certain sources. Suppose we were looking at questions asked about the topic of headphones across all forum sites. BuzzSumo will group questions into the most popular topical categories that these questions fall into. Here, we can see there's 200,000 plus questions asked about headphones, sorted into 340 some topics. We can either sort by popular topics, or we can look at a master list of questions sorted by the most recent date they were asked. The topical structure can be broken down in 2 ways. 1, we can click into any term within the word cloud to go right to that topical grouping. Or we can simply scroll through the results and see a sampling of the questions within each category. If we want to see all the questions within a particular category, we can just click the magnifying glass and it will open in a separate window. The topical groupings are meant to identify other terms that show up most often next to the main one that we're searching for. So in this case, Bluetooth is the most common term that shows up alongside headphones. We can then see related keywords that people tend to ask about, such as wireless Bluetooth headphones, Connect plus Bluetooth headphones, or best Bluetooth headphones. We can also see people tend to ask about terms such as wireless or price. In the price category, we see almost 2,500 questions asked about price. To use this information in creating good content, we might design an article that instructs people on the best headphones they can buy for a particular price category. This would not only serve as a direct answer to our audience's question, but it would also allow us to develop a unique perspective on a topic that is otherwise broad and features a lot of different angles. In addition to engagements, marketers need to be tracking backlinks to their sites and their client sites as well. Our backlink tool allows us to pull up the link profile for any website. As we mentioned at the top, there are 2 sources of link information within this tool. The first are the all-time metrics provided by our partnership with Majestic. We also crawl our own backlinks and provide information on those links based on the level of social engagement that they drive. This allows you to prioritize the more valuable backlinks that you have, as they might reach a wider audience. You can look up links to any page on a domain or links that are driving to a very specific page. You can filter links based on the past 2 or 5 years, or a more recent time frame like the past week or 24 hours. The last tool that we want to look at in the content research section is the trending feature. Each of the content research tools we've explored so far look at articles that have driven engagement over some period in the past. Trending helps us understand what is currently resonating with an online audience. and displays not just what's driving the most engagement, but what's driving that engagement at a faster and faster rate. Within any trending feed, you'll see two scores associated with each article: the total number of engagements, as well as a trending score. The trending score is calculated by measuring the number of engagements an article is getting every few minutes. The more engagements it gets, the higher the score goes. This will allow you to prioritize which articles are still trending upwards and which might have hit their peak and are starting to slow back down. You can sort by the trending score or by the most total engagements. You can also see what is trending within the past 24 hours all the way up to within the past hour. There's even a live mode if you want to keep track of these results and auto-refresh them as new shares are tabulated. In the sidebar, you'll see a list of pre-built feeds that we've provided to you in the platform. These cover some of the more broad categories such as sports, entertainment, tech, business, and video. We also have a countries filter that allows us to sort trending news by US state or by any country around the world. If you have a more targeted feed that you'd like to build, click on the blue button in the top left. This will allow you to create your own custom feed. Custom feeds can be built around a whitelist of topics, domains, or both. You could also include a language and country filter if you wanted to get hyper-targeted. One quick tip about trending feeds. The more niche your feed, the less likely it is that content is going to be trending in that category. So think for topics about broad, single-word phrases or hashtags. If you build a custom feed and you don't get any results, try searching for the terms within a most shared search. It may be just that they don't drive enough shares to ever really go viral. Once you've built a feed in trending, you have the ability to share that feed directly to one of your social channels, or grab the short link to share with members of your team who aren't working in BuzzSumo with you. This might be helpful for giving your client a view of a trending dashboard in their industry without requiring them to log into your BuzzSumo team. Or if you work in an internal communication tool such as Slack, or you prefer to receive updates via email, you can generate an RSS feed which will send you new trending content as we find it. We're going to move out of the content research section now and into influencers. And the way that we want to start thinking about influencers is as an effort that we should be undertaking right alongside our content research. Many times, people wait until after they publish their content to start reaching out to their influencers. They send emails with links to their content. They tweet to their influencers, asking them to share a recent blog post that they published. But by that point, our content is already starting to go stale. Most shares, most engagements for articles happen within the first 7 days after they've been published. So if we're not starting our outreach effort until day 1 of publication, we're already behind the curve. We want to start identifying good influencer targets and building those relationships long before we go to publish our content, so that when we actually push it live, our influencers are already primed and ready to share it right from the moment we put it up. There's 2 main ways to find influencers using the influencers tool in BuzzSumo. The first is a bio search. Here we're looking at Twitter bios and Twitter lists that people have been added to identify the most relevant people based on our search terms. The second method is called a shared content search. This is where we're looking for people that have shared content about a particular topic or from a particular website or both. This is great for finding influencers that are already sharing your content or sharing your competitors that you think should be sharing yours. When we're running bio searches in the Influencers tool, we want to think a little bit differently about the terms we use than we would a content search. When we're running content searches, we're primarily looking at topics to find articles that match. But when we're running bio searches, remember that we're looking for people, and people may or may not identify with broad topics. Let's look at an example. Suppose we were trying to find influencers in the fashion space, and so we typed the topic of fashion. Right away, we can see that the results skew much more towards companies because the term we've used is a bit too broad to find individuals. Here we're finding companies like fashion houses and fashion magazines and fashion businesses. What we want to potentially do is search more for the job titles that our targets have. Instead of just searching for fashion, maybe what we're looking for are fashion designers. Or maybe we're looking for somebody to write for us or write about us, and we're actually looking for fashion bloggers. Or maybe we're not looking for people that work in fashion at all, but work at a particular publication. If that's the case, we could potentially put the Twitter handle of the outlet we're after, scan past the top result, and look for the people associated with that publication. There are several unique filters here in the sidebar that can help you refine your results. Removing companies from search is one of the more popular ones. So too is has Instagram profile. Ticking this box and then applying the filters will limit the results to only those Twitter users who have linked their Instagram pages. We'll then display their Instagram handle right alongside an Instagram authority score. This is a 0 to 100 score calculated internally by BuzzSumo and will tell you what level of engagement this user drives on Instagram relative to other Instagrammers. The higher the score, the better. We can also filter our results by specific geolocations, whether using countries, states, or even cities. Let's talk for a moment about metrics. Here on the right-hand side of the page, you see 6 columns: page and domain authority, Twitter followers, retweet ratio, reply ratio, and average retweets. Using these metrics can help us determine the right targets for an influencer campaign. The page and domain authority are scores provided to us by Moz, and they map to the domain listed in the influencer's bio. These are 0 to 100 scores that indicate how likely it is that this website will show up high in search results. The higher the score, the more influential the website. Twitter followers is pretty self-explanatory, but listen on for why this is one of the metrics we tend not to focus on. The retweet ratio is a measure of how often when the person is tweeting, they are retweeting somebody else. This is one of 2 conversation metrics within BuzzSumo that are important to calculate to determine whether we might be able to build a relationship with the user. Reply ratio, then, is the percentage of tweets where the influencer is in direct communication with one of their followers. In both of these instances, we're looking for scores that are at least 15% or better. We want to have some proof that this person is actively engaging with their social network, because that active engagement will usually translate into a high average retweet score. This is a score that measures how many retweets this person tends to drive out of their audience when they tweet. The higher this number goes, the better for us. By default, we sort results based on relevance to the term we've put in the search bar, but we can sort by any of these individual metrics. Word of caution though, as you choose some of the other metrics, some of the relevance might start to go down. Normally, it's just best to leave it sorted by relevance. There are several things you can do when you identify influencer targets that you want to follow up with. First, you can follow them directly on Twitter if you aren't already. You could tweet directly to them or add them to any of your Twitter lists. You could also view the links that they share to get a sense of the content they tend to like to engage with. By clicking on the View Links Shared button, we get not only a picture of the topics and domains they tend to share content around, but also the individual links to articles that they've shared recently. Ask yourself, does the content that you'd like them to share line up with what they generally tend to be interested in? The last button here is a Save Influencer button. We're going to get into this in a moment when we talk about projects. As with our other tools, you can save all of your searches here or export your results to CSV. Now that you have a research and amplification strategy in place, now it's time to monitor the results. Our monitoring section is designed to track mentions of your brand, topics, keywords, domains, and backlinks as soon as new content is published that matches. You can choose to get alerts of these matches in real time, as a once-a-day digest to your email, or simply by logging into the platform and visiting your monitoring feed. There are 6 categories of alerts that you can create in BuzzSumo, and they're listed here along the left. You'll most often be creating alerts for brands and competitors, backlinks, and keywords, but feel free to explore the other alerts as well. When you set up an alert, we will display for you the top-line numbers associated with mentions that we find. Here in this alert for BuzzSumo, we can display the number of mentions we've driven today, over the past week, and past month, as well as a tracking graph going back the past 6 months from the time that you set it up. Below that, we'll display a feed of the articles where those mentions are occurring, sorted by the most recent publish date. You could sort by total engagements or any individual network as well. But this is more than just a mention tool. We want to display for you these mentions in the context of potential engagements and links. Next to every article where you are getting mentioned, we will tell you whether or not it is driving a backlink to your site. If it's not, we'll display a no link icon. If it is, we'll tell you. We'll also tell you whether these articles are driving any social shares. As we talked about in the backlinks feature, knowing which links are driving heavy social shares can help you prioritize those more valuable connection points. Once you set up a competitor alert, you can begin tracking your brand right alongside your competitor within the same screen. The other very valuable alert to set up in BuzzSumo is a keyword alert. Keyword alerts are great for picking up mentions of long-tail keywords that might not generate a lot of articles at the title and topic level. Many brands work in very niche markets, and they often run into the challenge of not enough content to analyze. Our keyword alerts not only crawl title and topic, but they also crawl the entire body of articles so that you can really keep track of the volume of content that's published on a daily basis for your keywords. For example, here's a keyword alert tracking a string of terms related to customer experience. You can see here that I'm picking up several mentions today, as well as over the past week and month, and each of these articles has a significant impact on somebody in my position who works in customer experience and success. Similarly, if you were working in the automated bill payment space, you might think that there's not a lot of content written in your area. And while that might be true in terms of entire articles, we can see that the volume of content that talks about these terms somewhere within the body is actually quite large. To set up an alert, click the blue button in the top left, choose the alert you'd like to build, and begin filling out the form. You can see here in a keyword alert, you have the option to make it an exact match phrase. I'd highly recommend this, especially if you're crawling the article text, as you might pull in a lot of irrelevant mentions if you let the terms stand alone. You can also whitelist or blacklist certain terms, which is very helpful if you want to remove mentions that are occurring in an entirely unrelated industry. You can also set a minimum engagement number to again try to prioritize articles that are already showing some sort of engagement with a social audience. Even setting a minimum engagement of 1 will end up eliminating a lot of junk results of articles that are never going to drive shares. You can also block or whitelist domains, and once you've set everything up, click Next, choose how you want to receive your digest, and click Finish. We'll immediately backfill as much content from our database as we can find for this term and begin crawling new content going forward. It's really important to set up these alerts as soon as possible. While we can backfill some content, the real power is in crawling once it's set up. Let's click into the edit screen so you can really see how to continue to refine these results. As we notice here in the content marketing feed, we're getting a lot of results, some of which are probably not relevant to what we're looking for. So we might need to further refine. You can see that I'm looking for exact match phrases. I'm not blocking any terms, but I could potentially block certain domains. This might be helpful if I see a lot of job postings for roles in content marketing when I'm really looking for more content. You can see that I'm searching the title and topic, but if I search the article text, I'd probably get even more results. And if I set a minimum engagement number, I'll probably end up filtering out a lot of noise. Once I make any changes, I can update my alert, and my feed will refresh and clear off irrelevant results within a few minutes. We've saved projects for last because projects is really a multi-use tool that can help you track and store information you find in BuzzSumo or while out surfing the web. You can use projects to track and report on the content that you produce, store articles and posts to help generate ideas, build content lists for social sharing. You could build influencer lists to better target your campaigns, or even manage those brand mentions and link building opportunities that we identified in the monitoring section. To create a project, click on the New Project button in the top left corner and give your project a name. You can make projects private if you only want to work on it for yourself, or you can leave this unchecked and the rest of your team can have access to it. Once you've built a project, there are three main ways to add content to projects. The first is utilizing the Save feature in BuzzSumo. As you noticed when we were doing searches in Most Shared, there was a Save icon next to every article that we find. Hovering over this icon will bring up that project list, and we can either add it to an existing project or create a new project. We can do the same thing from the Influencers tab. If we were looking for influencers in the content marketing space, we could hover over the Save Influencer button and add them to a project. This can also be done from other content research tools, such as the Facebook Analyzer, or the Question Analyzer. No matter where you save something from in BuzzSumo, we will automatically sort it into the correct tab back in the Project section. You can see within every project, we have them split into each of these major categories. The second way to add content to a project is by uploading an existing list of URLs via the Upload URLs button in the top right. Paste in your URLs one line at a time, and BuzzSumo will automatically add them to a project and display these top-line metrics. If we've already indexed them into the database, they'll appear almost immediately. If we haven't crawled them yet, we'll begin crawling them right away, and we usually have results within a few hours. The third way to add content to a project is via BuzzSumo's Chrome extension. The Chrome extension allows you to quickly save any article you find while out browsing the web. So here, if we are visiting a website like wired.com and we're reading an interesting article that we might want to index for further review later. Clicking on the BuzzSumo Chrome extension displays the real-time share counts of that article and also allows us to save it directly to an existing project. Each tab in the projects screen can be exported to CSV or Excel for further analysis. Just select the tab you want to export, click on the Options button in the top right, and select your file format. Now that we've toured the whole platform, let's do a quick recap and discuss some key takeaways. Let's remember our top 3 learning objectives for mastering BuzzSumo: understanding filters, how to structure searches, and saving our work. Filtered searches can make the difference between finding relevant, interesting, and helpful content versus not. For example, in Most Shared, would the B2B filter present more relevant content for your B2B client? Perhaps. If you're a local business and you want to target influencers, Doesn't it make more sense to target them in your city or state rather than search global results? Structuring searches can also completely frame the value of your research. If your topic's too broad, try narrowing it with additional terms. Too narrow, think more broadly or create an alert. Not enough data? Try searching for multiple terms at the same time. If you can't find the right influencers, try searching job titles or affiliations or the companies they work for. Lastly, saving helps you build long-term efficiency by creating digital records of your work. If you run 25 different combinations of keywords, turning on and off certain filters, before finally arriving at those few perfect matches, don't you want to track what you did so you don't end up doing redundant work later? If you come across a perfect article to share on social, save it to a project. That brings us to the end of our session today. Thank you so much for your time. I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions at any time, please reach out to us via the help section of the platform. Part of creating better content is leveraging the resources around you. That includes us on the BuzzSumo team. We're always working on new ideas to help you succeed in your marketing efforts. Enjoy the rest of your week. I'm sure I'll see you in BuzzSumo sometime soon. Bye.